the country to invest in this bank. The truth was, the paperwork was never done. They never owned the bank. They never had it. And the money just disappeared. And when these people tried to get their money back, Turner claimed the other guy stole it. The other guy is claiming Turner stole it. So I went directly to Billy because he was involved. Billy said he didn't know which one of them stole all the money. One of them did, but he doesn't really know who ended up with that money. What I do know is there was no bank. And I had to tell those people, just like the other people, I'm really sorry, but you're never going to see a dime of it. Unless you want to sue him. But he hasn't got anything, so there's no point. Well, then Turner kept saying he wanted to appoint a judicial committee to investigate him. Once and for all, find out the truth about the ID machine and that Jesus Barrios and Tamapuna and the Demetrians had stolen the money and stolen the machine and clear his name. Well, unfortunately, a very honorable man in Arizona by the name of Tom, he ended up being the chairperson on that committee, and he's a very honest man, and he decided he was going to do an honest investigation. He called me and he asked me for any information that I had, all documents and recordings and whatever I had amassed over the time. I gave it to him. I gave him everything. I also gave him my word that I would not publish anything on my blog that I hadn't already shared until he was done with his investigation, because I didn't want to hinder it. I also promised him that I would not ask him about his investigation. I didn't want him telling me what his findings were, because that's not honorable, and I knew he wanted to do it correctly. He did. As he started uncovering things, he started finding a whole lot more than what was going on with the ID machine. Now, you're going to find that in the documents that are being shared here on the radio station is a call where he describes what happened to that money. Now, it took him 3 weeks, I believe he said, to get the books. He couldn't investigate what happened to the money in the machine unless he could examine the books. Reasonable request. And they wouldn't give it to him, wouldn't give it to him, wouldn't give it to him. Finally, by the time they did, it showed that Tamapuna had paid for the machine, and he took the machine because it was his. Now, I got to tell you, people, number one, the guy is an international criminal. He is a thief by trade. He is not American. Now, why would a New Zealand international thief buy a $40,000 machine for Turner out of the goodness of his heart? The man makes a living stealing money, not being a philanthropist. And I knew there was no machine anyway. But that's what they put on the books to show Tom. The rest of the money was spent by various individuals in Turner's organization on meals and travel and entertainment. So all those people out there who were waiting on IDs that you paid for, guess what? No money was stolen. You're not getting your IDs, and they can't refund the money because they spent it. There was much more that he uncovered, and Turner insisted that evidence be turned over so it could be reviewed before it was brought to the floor of the House. My friend Tom refused, and when that happened, the manipulation started, and they got rid of Tom. How handy. Well, he hasn't come out with all of his evidence yet, and I'm not sure what he intends to do with it. I do know that he intends to do something with it. So we get up to more current events, and all of the things that I was finding and uncovering and archiving. Turner had another meeting with Jerry Berman, one of the original funders. First, Carl Sedlak did it. called him up and said, well, Turner's not involved anymore, and neither are the California people, and so can we talk about funding again? Well, he met with Jerry. Jerry wanted to find out what he actually wanted, and I let Jerry know. I gave him a recording from the night before proving that Turner and the rest of them had indeed not left and that Carl was lying. So then Turner contacted Jerry. Jerry contacted me, wanted to know, hey, what do you want me to do? Well, have lunch with him, find out what he's up to. According to Jerry, who has no reason to lie about it, he's just a rich man with money. He said that Turner claimed the California people were no longer involved and that he wanted to talk negotiations on money again, and admitted that he had turned over the U.S. Treasury, the Republic Treasury, to a man by the name of Marlon McCall. Now, out there in Radio Land, you probably don't know who that is, but that is another very, very high-level criminal who works with one of the big banks in Norway, and for George Bush, big surprise. So why would Turner be turning over the Treasury to another international criminal? Who knows, and I don't want to know. So then the controversy came up with Texas. Turner claimed on the roundtable calls that they had sent him a letter claiming that they were not going to abide by the rule of law, they were not going to follow the rules of the Constitution, and on and on and on and on, and they were removing themselves from the Republic. It was an absolute outrageous lie. Every document that they had filed in Texas, the whole thing came up because they demanded to see the documents with the signatures on them. And they demanded answers to all of the claims that Turner had made all this time and refused to come forward with. They had put his feet to the fire. And it was not the elected officials in Texas who did it in the first place. It was their grand jury. They published all of the documents that had really gone to Turner on their website. They shared them in email. But Turner lied about it. Unfortunately, he really shouldn't have taken on Jim Wright in Texas because those people just don't fold and go away like so many others have in other states, so the fight goes on. Meanwhile, there was Nevada. Very nice old guy by the name of Ed, and great gal named Karen. And I had warned those two many, many times. Watch it. As soon as they're done with you and use you as much as they need to, they're going to take you out too. Well, eventually, the people in Nevada and some people in some other states started getting too smart and started realizing, this has gone on a really long time. We keep asking for proof of things. We're not getting it. The claims keep changing. And it's always very soon, very soon. No, I can't talk about that. Can't give you details. Not allowed to. But God sent me, and so on and so on. So they started asking the tough questions too. Only they couldn't get any answers, and they weren't allowed to talk on the calls because, guess what? After all this time, almost 2 years, the very things that had gotten me targeted in the first place, the issues of no communication with each other, was still going on. They still couldn't communicate with each other from state to state unless they happened to be in a committee with each other. So they took issue with that. And they began to have what they called coffee clutch calls. Now, there was nothing wrong with these calls. I was given the link, and I went and I listened in on what these people had to say, and what I heard was some very concerned and quite intelligent individuals with some reasonable questions that weren't getting answered, and they met to discuss ways that they could solve it. Gee, deja vu. Sounded just like when I put those conferences together. So, only a few attended the first couple calls, but then it began to grow, and other states were involved. Well, they had a couple of people show up on their calls who went and tattletaled, just like our Georgia officials who thought they worked for Turner. One of them was Brett Greenwood, and he went and told on them. So, and actually they weren't doing anything behind anybody's back. The calls were open. Anybody was allowed to join. They were just discussions. That's why they were called coffee clutch calls. They were just little meetings. They didn't know too many people across the country, but they had connection to a few. And by sending out emails and inviting people on the call, more people showed up. So it was inevitable that somebody was going to go complain. Well, they did, because these people were identifying very serious issues and coming up with ways that they were going to put Turner's feet to the fire and make him once and for all answer them. So what did he do? Well, he got a new committee, an ethics committee, to infiltrate their calls and investigate them. And then these poor people who wanted nothing more than the truth all got accused of sedition and treason. And they all got sanctioned or kicked out. Now, here we go again. How a national level, under a constitutional republic, could ever have the right to go into a state and remove its elected officials is beyond me. But that is exactly what they did, including the governor of Mississippi, totally unlawfully, and just informed him he was no longer the governor. Why? Because he attended the coffee clutch calls. Now, they've done a very, very good job. They have a blog, and it's all been out in the open. They don't hide anything they've discussed, and all those calls are archived for anybody to hear and anybody to access. A few of those I have put links to. There's a document in the uploads called Links. You can go there and you can listen and you can hear, for instance, Tim Turner blatantly lied to Chris Saloni out of Connecticut about what Texas did. You can go to Texas's website and you can see exactly what they did. That no letter ever existed. No conversation in which they said what he said ever took place. There are all of the coffee clutch calls that were held. There is also a call where Tom shares what actually happened to the money and his investigation into it there. You can go listen to it yourself, make your own judgments. Now I'm going to, as we're getting closer to the end of this show, I'm going to tell you, I mentioned earlier that there are subjects and folders that I gave to the webmaster to put up on the site. And they're entitled Criminals, and in that file you will find the information on the Demetrians and Tamapuna, etc. In emails, you will see emails that went back and forth. I believe I put the one in there from the gentleman in Hawaii who contacted me after I exposed who the Demetrians were and told me about how it actually happened the morning of July 3rd when they helicoptered the Demetrians with the help of the Hawaii Assembly out of Honolulu to the Honolulu airport and took them away on a private jet, bypassing the TSA when they flew them to Alabama. And on those other hard drives also, there's a document that shows there was a meeting that took place in Virginia on June 3rd of 2010 when they came up with the plan to nab the Demetrians out of Hawaii.